The spirit of sacrifice is missing. Most people today have not tasted the joy of sacrifice and they don't like to work hard. Gone are philorimo and self-sacrifice. In their place are laziness, easy solutions, and much leisure. They consider it a great achievement when they succeed without making an effort, when things accommodate them. Anything that gives them difficulty makes them unhappy. But if they were to face life spiritually, then the mere opportunity to struggle would give them joy. Everybody now, young and old, cares only for his convenience. Even spiritual people who aspire to holiness sometimes want to get there the easy way. Those who live in the world want to work less but make more money. Students want to pass their exams without studying and get their diplomas without ever leaving the coffee shops. They would even love to call from there and get their exam scores over the phone. If that were possible, that is how far they go. Students come to my Kalevi all the time and say to me, "Pray for me to pass my exams." They do not study hard, yet think, "God will help me." You must study and pray too, I advise them. Both are necessary. Why? They answer. Can't God help me? They expect God to bless their laziness. That's not possible. Now if the students study hard but have difficulty understanding, God will come to their assistance. There are some young people who have memory and comprehension problems but try hard nevertheless. God will help them become brilliant. Fortunately, there are exceptions. A young man from Khalkiriki applied to 3 university schools and was accepted in all of them with a first or second rank. But he thought in his heart that the right thing for him to do was to get a job and relieve his father who was working in the mines. So he deferred his studies and took a job. Such souls are medicine for me. I'm willing to die for them, to have them step all over me. Most young people, however, have been affected by the secular spirit and are in bad shape. All they know is how to take care of their own needs. They could not care less about others. They only think of themselves. And the more you help them, the lazier they become. I see so many insipid and disinterested young people today. All they do is judge everything and find all things boring. But they do not know that the heart never tires, nor does it get old. It is always young in spirit. Today's youth finds monastic life boring, and marriage scares them. Strong, healthy young men come to live on the holy mountain all the time, and they say things like, "Oh, the monk's life is so hard. You must get up at midnight every day." So they decide to return to the world. But then they start wondering, how will I make a living in this society? What kind of a person will I be stuck with if I get married? Oh, it's such a bother, they conclude, and decide to return to the holy mountain. They stay there for a while, and then they start saying all over again, "It's so hard." Today's young people resemble new engines whose oil is frozen. The only way to start the engine is to get the oil warm. There is no other way. Many troubled young men, not just one or two, come to my Kalevi and ask me, "What should I do, Father? How should I spend my time? I am bored." "Find a job, my son." "I have money, I do not need to work," they answer. But I reply, the Apostle Paul says, "If anyone will not work, let him not eat." You must work in order to eat, even if you have money. Work helps a man thaw out the oil of his engine. To work is to create. It gives you joy and takes away your anxiety and boredom. So my son, this is what you should do. Find a job that you like enough to at least get started. Just give it a try. and you will see the difference. On the contrary, there are some young men who love getting tired from work. They actually find rest in working hard. They get pleasure from it, and being tired, they find inner rest. But other young men come to my Kelvi and get tired simply by sitting. Still, others have a lot of Filorimo and ask me constantly, is there anything we can do for you? Is there anything we can get you? I never ask for anything. At night, I use a flashlight to do my errands, whether it is fetching wood to light the stove or straightening the place. Many of the visitors make a mess, leaving mud and wet socks everywhere. I give them the fine socks that I receive as gifts, and they throw away their soiled ones. I even give them paper napkins to wrap their socks in and dispose of them, but they leave them lying around. 3 times in my life I have asked for something. Once I said to a young man, I need 2 boxes of matches from Paisios. Even though I had 4 lighters, I only did this because I wanted to make him feel happy. He got up and ran to Paisios and returned out of breath to bring the matches. He felt tired, but he was happy because he had tasted the joy of sacrifice. But another fellow who was there at the same time was getting tired just from sitting around. Young people ask to feel joy, but joy will not come without sacrifices. Sacrifice gives birth to joy. Real joy comes from Filorimo. Once we cultivate Filorimo, then we will have a real festival inside us. It is egoism and self-love that cause us pain. They are the cause of our troubles. 2 young military officers once came to the holy mountain. They told me that they wanted to become monks. Why do you want to become monks? How long have you been thinking about it? I asked. Just now, they said. We visited the holy mountain and thought of staying here, just in case a war breaks out. Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? I asked. Listen to yourselves, just in case a war breaks out. And how will you manage to leave the army? We will find an excuse. What excuse were they going to find? They would probably pretend they are crazy. Or they would come up with something else. If this is your mindset and you want to become monks, you have already failed, I told them. Then there are those who have been planning for a long time to get married and start a family. But they come to the holy mountain and say things like, why should I marry? These are difficult times to raise a family. Fine, I told one of them. Did life stop during the time that Christians were persecuted? Weren't people still working and getting married? Or are you perhaps too lazy to get married? I want to become a monk, one of them insisted. But you're easily bored. What kind of a monk are you going to be? Monks work hard. Do you see my point? If a woman wants to become a nun because she is thinking, what's the point of staying in the world, of getting married and having children, headaches and troubles? I will go to a monastery where I will do what they tell me and have no responsibilities. And if they should reprimand me, I will just bow my head. Why bother having my own household? At the monastery, lodging and food will be provided. This kind of person is bound to fail. She will not last. Do you find this strange? There are a lot of people who think this way. You must know that a hard-working person will prosper with whatever he does. A man who works hard for his family would have made a good monk, and a monk who works hard for his monastery would have made a good family man. There was once someone who had joined a monastery as a novice but did not want to be conjured a monk. My son, why are you still a novice? I asked him. Because the monk's cap reminds me of a helmet, was his answer. Can you believe this? This person did not want to become a monk because he did not want to wear a monk's cap. It reminded him of a helmet. When did he ever wear a helmet? Maybe he did a few times while he was training in the army. And he had not even gone to war. Listen to that, a helmet. What a thing to say. Why would such a person ever want to be a monk? How can someone who thinks this way become a good monk? The poor fellow finally became a monk in some other monastery, but he never wore the thick monastic cap. Another time, two young men came to my gallery, and their hair was really long. I tried to give them a haircut, but they resisted, and since I was in a hurry, I only offered them a treat. At that time, I had a kitten. One of them asked me, "May I take it?" "Take it," I said. They left in the rain, one of them holding the cat in his arms, and headed for Iveron Monastery, which was an hour's walk from there. When they arrived, he asked if he could spend the night at the Archontarchy with the cat. That is not possible, he was told, and he ended up staying outside in the rain all night. If you had asked him to stay guard for an hour, he would have said, "No, I can't." But he was perfectly able to stay out a whole night, holding a kitten in his arms. Another young man had gone to serve in the army. He left one day without permission and eventually came to my gallery. "I want to become a monk," he said. "You should first go and complete your military service," was my answer. "But the army is not like my home," he replied. "Thank you for letting me know," I joked. "This way I can warn others about it." Warn. Meanwhile, his family had been looking for him. He left and a few days later returned, early in the morning, on the Sunday after Pascha, the Sunday of Saint Thomas. "I need to see you," he told me. "What do you want?" I asked him. "Where did you go to church today?" "Nowhere," he said. "On the Sunday of Saint Thomas, when all the monasteries keep vigils, you did not go to church, and you want to become a monk. Where were you?" "I stayed at a hotel, where it's quiet. I find the monasteries too noisy," he replied. "And what are you going to do now?" I asked him. "I'm thinking of going to the monastery at Sinai, because I want to live a hard life," he replied. "Wait a minute," I said. I went inside and got him some fresh Easter bread, gave it to him and told him, "Here, take this soft Easter bread to help you start your hard life, and get out of here." That is today's youth. They do not know what they want and will not accept any pressure. How can they possibly make sacrifices for others? I remember in the army there were all kinds of urgent needs. Every time something would come up, the man would say, "Sir, let me go on this mission. This other man is married, he has children. It would be a pity for his children to be left without a father." There they were asking the commander to send them to the front lines. They found joy in the idea of getting killed so that others with children would not have to die and leave their children without a father. I can't imagine anyone making this kind of sacrifice today. It would be a rare thing. Once we had run out of water, the commander located on the map an area where he could find water, but the guerrillas were there. There is water somewhere near, but it is very dangerous. Who will go to fill some canteens? It will have to be done in the dark. One man came forward immediately. "I will go, sir." Another followed. Then another. Everybody wanted to go. It was going to be a night mission in the dark, a dangerous one. "You cannot all go," the commander said. No one thought of himself in that situation. You did not hear the man saying, "Sir, my foot is hurting," or "I have a headache," or "I am tired." Everybody wanted to go, even though our lives would be at risk. These days there is a lukewarm spirit. There is no manliness, no sacrifice. We think with a faulty logic that has turned everything upside down. You see, in the past, men would go voluntarily to serve in the army. Today, they will do anything to get an exemption. They go to a doctor to diagnose them as mentally ill. They will try all kinds of tricks to avoid the draft. This was unheard of in the old days. In our unit, we had a 23-year-old lieutenant, young but very brave. One day, his father, a retired army officer, called him. He said that he was planning to use his influence to have him relocated from the front lines to the rear. The lieutenant became really upset. Shame on you, father, for saying such a thing. All the drones do nothing. His honesty, candor, and bravery exceeded all bounds. He was always the first to get to the front line. His great coat was full of bullet holes, but he was still alive. When he was discharged, he took the great coat with him as a souvenir.